Welcome everybody. Today I'm honored to introduce some friends of mine. Married for 30 years and in business together for 28, Richard and Laura Behney are the leading experts on couplepreneurship. They've started and grown multiple seven-figure businesses, launched 2 podcasts, and coached hundreds of couple-run businesses on intentional entrepreneurship. What I love about Richard and Laura is the rock-solid love and energy they bring to the table as people and as partners. Whether or not you run a business with a loved one, having a partnership with someone in any shape or form requires deep trust and a firm foundation. Despite the challenges partnerships can create, Richard and Laura's marriage is better than ever, and they're ready to help other couplepreneurs and partners do the same. Welcome, Richard and Laura. I'm so excited to have you here. I'm just like buzzing with all the cool conversations we're about to have. Thank you so much for being here.
Sure. Thanks, MJ.
Thanks, MJ. We've been looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys are just such powerhouses in business as a couple. I mean, I know you personally, so I can speak from firsthand experience of just the awesome energy that you guys have. But one of the first questions that I had in my mind when it came to your business in Couplepreneur was, what are couplepreneurs actually defined as?
Sure.
What would that be?
Sure. And I'll take that, I guess.
Go for it, baby.
Couplepreneurs, 2 words together, obviously couple and preneur, or entrepreneur. So combine that and make couplepreneur. So a couplepreneur is a husband and wife that own or operate their own business together. Simple as that.
Super simple.
Yep.
So it's kind of like me and my husband, right?
Exactly right.
Right on.
Would we be considered a couplepreneur if technically I'm like the face of the brand and it's my business, but he's doing back end work? He's helping with clients.
Definitely.
Do you constantly talk about your business and just that's a big part of your lives, right? I'm assuming, right? So yeah, definitely a couplepreneur.
Yep.
Awesome. So what are the challenges that most couplepreneurs are facing? I mean, I know we have our own set, so I'm curious to hear what you guys see on your end.
Just see if you're normal, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or worse than normal.
Go ahead, baby.
Well, I think one of the biggest things is, we look at, just marriage in general. We know that 40 to 50% of marriages fail into divorce. And then we take a look at the stats just in business, that 95% of all businesses fail within the first 3 to 5 years. So already, those things separately by themselves are very difficult, and very challenging. Now we throw that we're, in the mix that we're married and we're running a business together, and it creates this,
it's a hot mess.
Right. It is a hot mess. It creates a lot of chaos, right? I think what we find is it's extremely important to, as soon as you can, to define the roles. Not only the roles in the business, which is extremely important, but even the roles in the home. Traditional roles kind of go out the window.
True.
For example, Laura and I are in business together, running a couple businesses together. And so as a guy, I can't go home I can, but it doesn't make for a happy home. I go home and I just plop down on the couch and start watching, the sports channel or the news or something like that. And leave Laura to, make dinner for the kids and those kinds of things. She's just as tired as I am. She's been working in the business, as much as I am, as I have. So it's, especially in the home environment, it's defining those roles as well, of, who's doing what, when, and being open to move when you have to, and who's working with the kids on what, and those kinds of things.
Yes. And in the business too, defining the roles in the business, who's over what, because if you don't define those roles, then when things overlap, there's going to be conflict. So really from the beginning, you need to establish who's going to have the final say so over whatever area of the business, whether it be the marketing, whether it be the employees, whether it be legal, whatever it is, who has the final say so. Now, of course, you're going to come together and have discussions about it. But if there is a difference of opinion, then one of you has to make the decision. So making that up, those decisions and just defining those roles up front really save
a lot of
headache.
Yes.
So
yeah, I mean, I would imagine that when you have 2 people who are trying to manage so many things, they kind of not only bleed into each other, but you can spend a lot of excess energy and stress and things that actually slow down your progress in both your personal and business life if you don't get these things managed.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, those are important.
How would you say that you would separate, because a lot of people are working from home, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
So how do couplepreneurs mastered this art of balancing work life when it's so intermingled. And,
Sure.
you guys are so intermingled. Like you're talking about somebody has to make this final decision. How do you maintain that, like honor that? I'm sure I can just see all the things in my past.
Well, I didn't say it was easy. Definitely not easy. And one thing that we always say with work-life balance, there's no such thing.
There's no such thing as balance.
There just isn't. There's times in your family or your marriage that it demands more attention. It just does, whether it's young kids or illness, whatever it might be. There's times in your business where you may have to give 80, 90% of you to the business because some big project is coming up or you just launched or whatever it might be. So that's the thing that we really like to kind of come against, is saying that there is no such thing as work-life balance where it's perfect. If you're a couplepreneur and you own a business together, run a business together, your lives are intertwined in more than just a marriage. So you do talk about business at home. You can't help it. We talk about our business, two businesses, all the time, but we also enjoy it because we have a passion for what we're doing. We have a passion for the people that we serve, the people that we're working with. And so it isn't where we say at 5:00, okay, no more business. Now let's just talk about us or the kids or our friends or our church or whatever it might be. No, it bleeds over, and that's okay. To us, it makes us closer. Especially when being couplepreneurs, and if you guys, do work from home or wherever, your lives are, you have shared days now. Instead of one person goes off to their office, the other person goes off to their office, you share your daily life you experience together. And that's what I think is really drawn us even closer together. And that's what we find with our clients as well. They love being together and sharing their experience instead of coming home at the end of the day and say, "Hi, honey, how was your day?" And you can tell them, but they didn't experience it with you.
Right.
So
We say, it's really evolves into true intimacy, and it's really a pretty cool thing. On the practical side, how that looks like is, you're working at home and you get a call from the school that, that Sally or Johnny, little Sally or little Johnny is sick, and it's like, who goes picks up, little Johnny or little Sally, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what is being in tune with one another. Who's both of what you're doing is extremely important, but what's priority at the time? So here's where we go back to, classical roles. It may another time it may have been, mom that would go pick up little Sally. But mom's, knee deep in, working on a new contract or something like that has to go out now, so that's the priority. So dad goes and picks up little Sally at this time. So it's just being, the give and take and understanding both of you, what needs to be done. Yep.
So I noticed, like, in our relationship, one of the things that we have struggled with over the years is just this constant focus on getting stuff done, working in that, kind of trying to balance and work as a team. So it's almost like if you're in a game, somebody's always got the ball and we're always looking to like dribble past and score a goal. But then we almost forget, to take a break, have fun together. It's, things start getting kind of redundant. You're in this routine and you're almost just kind of like business partners and you're not, couple anymore. So how would you, strike a balance between that and maintain that lively? I mean, you guys are really great at this, by the way. I've seen it. You guys have so much fun. You enjoy being together. Your vibe is awesome. But how do you do that when you're
sure.
Yeah.
Well, and we did it in the beginning. We were not good at the beginning at all. With this. We've been married almost 30 years, and been in business together, almost 28 years together. And at year 3 of our marriage, we were separated for a period of time because the stress of the business and the kids and all the things really took a toll on us. And we fought all the time.
Yeah, you get overwhelmed by those things, and then that causes division, right?
Yeah.
Just what you're talking about here. So how do you not become divided? Well, it's being intentional, and that's the key thing. Being intentional, coming off and just realizing we're not just mommy and daddy. We're not just business partners. We're boyfriend and girlfriend first.
Right.
So it is that silly or that simple. Yeah. It's reconnecting with that boyfriend and girlfriend, that that magic. Okay. You got to be intentional. That magic just doesn't happen. It's not just a thing that falls on you.
Right.
You got to go after it. Okay. So you got to be intentional about that. And, we call it, I like the word Twitter pated. You got to focus on those kinds of things. So date night is a huge deal. Is a date night is so important. And that's once we institute a date night, and we instituted a date night coming out of our separation. And at that time, we didn't feel much like dating. There wasn't any magic there.
Yeah, right. It's like how.
And in fact, we know it works because we came through that period of time where we hated one another. We literally hated one another. I want to use that. That's a strong word. We hated one another. There was no attraction. It's just because we died. We just been overwhelmed, divided, and angry, and all those kinds of things. But by being intentional, you find those feelings again.
Yeah.
So if you're that bad, but just through not losing it, just touching base like that and having that date night, a weekly date night, and it's in stone. It's the most important meeting that you have that week.
Yeah.
And I'll talk to the guys. Guys, it's the most important meeting that you have that week where you pursue your wife. Okay.
And it doesn't always have to be date night. It can be date day. It just depends on what stage of life you're in. Sometimes if you've got little kids or the kids are at school, so it just makes sense to have a date lunch once a week. Whatever it is, it really is in stone. And just like anything, if you're going to be good at it or successful, you have to be intentional.
Yeah.
If you want to get healthy, you can't just think about, well, every now and then I may go work out and whatever. Right. No, you have to be intentional about setting your alarm clock early in the morning, about making sure that you've got workout clothes, of driving to the gym, whatever it is, you're intentional about it. It's the same with your marriage. But for some reason, we're certainly intentional in the beginning of our relationship. But as we, as the years go by, we get complacent and we're not intentional. And that's why a lot of marriages sadly end in divorce.
And it is sad because I think that you have two powerhouses, right? Typically, to be a couplepreneur, you have two people who are independently very driven on their own. And then those start to clash because things aren't lining up. And the experience, it's really just the experience, right? Like the experience is like all this friction. It's not that there is really a broken marriage or anything. It's just that positive, intentional friendship is not there. And so it's very easy to unhinge. And I love what you say about that. So I appreciate that. It's got to be the most important meeting of your week.
Absolutely.
And I think the cool thing is when most couplepreneurs come together, they have a vision, right, for their life and what it is they're doing, their passion and their goals. But, what's the best thing that they can do to actually live that life? Because business can really just absorb you, So how you make that, translate that to the end result?
Again, well, it's being intentional. The key thing is being intentional and making this the priority. Okay, your marriage first. All right, it's not the business first. It's not the kids. Okay, I may take some hits on that. All right, the kids aren't first.
Kids are not first.
In fact, the kids will be great. They're great if they see mom and dad great. All right. They see dad chasing mom around the kitchen. All right. In a good way. Okay. That provides security. Okay. All right. And even seeing mom and dad work out the arguments. It's okay to argue in front of the kids. All right. But to see you work it out, that means, we can have differences in the world. And, we can come out, together.
And
all right.
And
be resolved. Right.
Yeah. And we hear all the time from, some of our clients, they'll say, well, we haven't taken a vacation together since, 5 years ago when the baby was born. And we're like, no way. Or they haven't even gone even an overnight or something, because typically it's the mom feels guilty about leaving the child.
Yeah.
And we really work with our clients on that because, you have to take the time to be together. You are not mommy and daddy first, like Richard said. You're not mommy and daddy first. You are husband and wife first. And so you do have to become not selfish with your time, but putting the kids second so that the kids do see mom and dad go away. And you know what? Normally you take the kids to grandma and grandpa during those times and the kids are spoiled rotten. Grandma and grandma get some great time, right? You go away, you get refreshed and you come back and your kids see that. And what you want to represent to your kids or show your kids is a strong, secure, solid marriage, a mom and dad that just love each other and that they put their relationship first, and you're training your children on what marriage should look like.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's kind of like that your air mask on first, right? Like you can't be a
Yes.
mom and dad if you're not taking care of
Gr-
yourselves.
Great
Yes.
analogy.
Great. We're going to write that one down.
Yeah, I'm going to hack that one.
Yeah, because it's really easy to feel guilty. And I think one of the things that
Sure.
we also do and feel guilty about is like going out and having friends outside of the family together. You know, and we starve for kind of what we call community, right? Like, of course, like we are our own little community here. But me and my husband, when we do go out and make friends, we kind of do it separately. You know, so I'll go out with my sister-in-law, he'll go out with my brother-in-law, and we kind of do our things like guy versus girl things. But it's so rare that it's just me and my husband going out and making. I mean, aside from like when we go to Nashville or whatever, like that's like our vacation. But I mean, do you guys have something specific in terms of not being so isolated as a couple at home every single day and having a social life?
Well, as far as the social life, and we'll jump in on that. We don't recommend, or at least in our experience, it's not best to have separate friends. And on the guy side, on the ladies, it can be a little different. We are different.
Yeah.
But
Because ladies are more relational.
more relational, more
communal,
social, right? With the guys, it's look, your buddy, you know, it's time to get rid of the boyfriends. You don't need boyfriends, okay? You're grown up, okay? And your friend is now your wife. And so we really don't recommend. It doesn't mean you don't have friendships or have, you know, we have small groups with guys and that kind of stuff, but I'm not going out and playing golf with guys and having in separate time with guys.
Okay.
No, that's not a healthy situation. What friends that we have are as couples.
Okay.
And so the time we're spending with couples.
And typically couples that own business together, couplepreneurs, because they understand us, right? And MJ, you and your husband, I'm sure, you know, being a couplepreneur, you can be around other couples that aren't couplepreneurs and they don't get you, right? They're just like, okay, well, payroll, we'll just make payroll. What's the big deal? Or, you know, whatever it might be. Someone that's not a couplepreneur, it's very hard for them to understand all the things that a couplepreneur goes through. And, you know, at night, you know, going to bed and still talking about, oh, did you remember to pay such and such bill? Or did you remember to call such and such customer? I mean, that's what a couplepreneur's life is like most of the time.
So we're really pretty selfish with our time.
We really are.
I mean, and protective. A better way is protective of the time. And the times that we spend with other couples, again, are other couples who are in business together, because there's an understanding there, and there's a support.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't hear a lot from them. Why don't you just get a real job?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
there's so much that mingles between business and personal life. I completely understand what you say. It's even the simple things. It's not that non-couplepreneurs are bad folks or anything like that. It's just,
of course not.
It's tough to just have conversations where you feel like you can input any sort of value or receive any kind of understanding, because there's just such a disconnect with the way that the lifestyles are. And so that's really interesting.
Right.
I have to marinate on that a little bit more, because there was a part of me that was feeling like, man, we're not doing a good job, not like cultivating friendships outside of our relationship in terms of like separately from one another. And I thought that was super important to do. So,
well, you know what, when we get married, most of the time we get married in a church, and the pastor, goes through the different, scriptures and all that. And one is, a man shall leave his mother and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one. So there's no longer two people. There's one. That's how marriage is supposed to be. That's how God designed it. Marriage is one. Now, all that to say, of course, there's going to be times where, Richard will go out or see, a brother-in-law, or he does have a best friend. But 99% of the time, we really are intentional about being with other couplepreneurs and our time. As couplepreneurs, we're busy, right? And MJ, you are busy, so your time is valuable. And we like to cultivate relationships together, with other couplepreneurs, or, small group at church, those types of things. So
if I could ask, what if, say, one of you need some external feedback? Who do you talk to, go to? Like men and women, we communicate differently. And sometimes, I appreciate when my husband can go and speak to his brother or whatever and get like the man whatever kind of brainwave that they can connect on, and then come back and be able to speak to me a little bit more clearly. Like, do you guys have some sort of outsource like that, or do you bring everything first and foremost to each other?
Well, it normally is first and foremost to each other. I mean, we've been married an awfully long time. And we are best friends. We literally are one. We're one person. And so most of the time we don't even have to say exactly what we're thinking. The other one already knows it. Right. But for outside, if we really do need to speak to someone, we speak to our best friends who happen to be husband and wife. They're not couplepreneurs, but they're husband and wife that we've been friends with for 20 plus years. Yeah. I mean, a long, long time.
So there's a trust there.
Right. They know us deeply, intimately, and they're the people that we trust more than anything. So if we really need someone to speak into our lives, or get some advice on a certain area, at least from a personal standpoint, these are the people we would go to.
Yeah, I know socially in our society, it is where, men, you're with your buddies, and the girls, empowered, and you do get the girls. But, with a marriage, the most powerful thing, the most powerful voice that can speak into my life on this planet is my wife. And if more guys would listen to their wives, it would be a lot. And I don't necessarily like everything she has to say, but that's the only voice that I really need to listen to on this planet. Everyone else can go in one ear and out the other. But this is the voice that I listen to. Again, I don't always like what she has to say, but that's the true intimacy. We know each other so well. I have no secrets. There are no secrets here. She knows my deep, dark, bad boy side. Okay. And she can recognize when it's coming out. And so when it's happening, she speaks into my life in a very loving, caring way.
I didn't in the beginning.
In the beginning, she didn't speak it in a very loving, right? And that's where some things happen. Also, I wasn't receiving of that. Okay, a marriage is truly coming together, a biblical marriage, not social marriage or whatever, but a biblical marriage is a man and a woman coming together, and it truly is one being, one flesh, and we're not just talking sex, we're talking about one being, okay, which truly does become a superpower. That's why there's so much out there trying to divide marriages, because you two together are unbeatable. You're a superpower.
I feel like there's a lot of from here to here, like this conceptually is like a huge leap, right? Because I hear things that other people listening or watching may not hear, which is you didn't speak that way before. You listening to her voice. But I don't think it's about Laura's the boss of you and it's just, egoically whatever she wants. I know, me and my husband, our relationship really started to change when I started understanding more of what he meant and vice versa. Right. But how do you get from that point where you've got this couple who's completely burnt out and running in circles and stuck where they're at and not really getting along and worried that their relationship, their business, everything's going to fail, to, okay, like we're not only open, but that trust, that bond is there enough to be able to let the guard down and say, okay, let me really hear you and trust what your intentions are, and like to become that powerhouse that you guys are. For us, it was not a easy process. It was like, I don't wish that process on anybody.
You are right.
Us too. Exactly the same.
Key, like if we could give that out to people, like what would it, how do we flip that switch,
It's because first of all, love is a choice. Okay. Love is not something that we fall into or falls on us. Okay, when we first meet, that's the Twitter-pated, infatuation, which is a key. I mean, it helped to kind of get you connected. But if that's just glitter that's happening, that's not love. Love is a choice, and so love is me saying that I commit to this person, and that she can speak into my life, and I'll be there. Okay. That also takes time. We're also a society where we just ordered something from Amazon and got here the same day. Everything happens right now. That kind of love that deep love, that true deep love, that true intimacy, which we all seek. We want to know that someone just accepts me for who I am. And we all want that connection. But that happens over time. It doesn't happen right now. and, over some glitter, falling on you. It takes time, and going to and having these conversations, and Laura was there. When in our case, Laura left me and we were separated, but she came back. She made a choice, even though she didn't feel like it.
I did not.
Made a choice to say, I commit to this man and this family, and I will be there. And she's been there and been there and been there. And coming out of that now, where we are now 30 years, it's when we say it can be hot, sexy, passionate, secure, exciting, adventurous. That comes from all those fights, even within the business, all the struggles within the business. I mean, we've been successful and we failed. I mean, we've lost 2 businesses, and all that and everything that involves, and so her being side by side and us, fighting this fight together, man, there's nothing sexier than that.
Right.
After you look back.
Right, exactly. In the moment, not so much, right?
Right.
And part of it was, the reason I came back, there was no romantic reasons at all. I purposed that I'm going to do everything I can to save the marriage. And I did not want to get a divorce. I've been divorced before. I had a son from a previous marriage, which Richard had adopted as well. But I purposed in my heart, I am not getting divorced again. So the first thing that we did, of course, date night, we got marriage counseling, which we desperately needed. I thought he needed it way more than me. Go figure. That wasn't true.
Which is tough for type A personalities who can work on things on their own. Right. It's tough to be that vulnerable, right?
Yes.
But,
so we got marriage counseling for a while. And then also we rededicated our lives to Christ. We had both grown up, Christian, right? But we certainly weren't living as godly husband and wife. So we both decided we're going to rededicate our lives to Christ, get baptized, and put Jesus the center of our marriage, which is what we did. And that made all the difference for sure. And then also 5 love languages. I know that everybody has heard of the book by Gary Chapman, The 5 Love Languages. And it's an much older book. Gosh, I don't even know how long it's been around. But that was in a study with our small group at church. And it really spoke to us because we weren't speaking each other's love languages. My love language is acts of service. Richard's love language is words of affirmation. Richard's last love language is acts of service. And my last love language is words of affirmation. So, he would tell me all the time, sweetheart, you're so great and you're so beautiful. And, all these words. And I'm like, blah, 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 blah. Take out the trash, fold the towels. And he's thinking he's loving me by being so generous with his words and compliments, which are nice, but that didn't speak my love language. Right. As soon as he would truly take out the trash, fold the laundry without being asked, or the dishes or whatever, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're sexy. That's amazing. Right. And then the same goes for Richard. I would, fold his underwear just right and put it in the drawer just right for him. Or I would do all these things for him. But I wouldn't tell him that I thought he was a good man or a good husband. And that's what he was craving from me as his wife. So as we went through the 5 love languages and we learned this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to start speaking these things to him. Well, they would get caught in my throat because it was just so hard for me to do that. And I didn't understand how me saying, how wonderful and complimenting him on him would just change him. I would see his shoulders go back and he just felt like I can just conquer the world. Right. Mm-hmm. And then he would take out the trash and I'm like, baby, you're hot. That's super sexy the way you take the trash out.
But just doing that communicating in that way, and kind of the silliness of the love language kind of a thing. Yeah. That kind of spilled in over to our business communication. In that now I was more open when she needed, because she's the more practical side of our business. I'm the dreamer, the visionary, squirrel. I can get along kind of a thing where she's like, we got to get this. That drives me crazy. But when she started, and so that was part of our problem in the early days, is we weren't communicating well, as far as our relationship. And so, and that spilled over into our business. And so we were really beating each other up. But now when we started communicating in the ways that were more effective within our relationship, then we were open. I was open for her to come at me, and we got to do this, got to do this, got to do this, got to do this, and get, a list of things. And then she was more comfortable when I would all of a sudden go off on a tangent on something. She had more grace for me.
You guys were filling each other's cup. So have you guys read the 7 Principles of Marriage? Or it's John Gottman, I think. 7.
No, heard it. No, but I haven't, to be honest with you.
It's really good, just like the 5 love languages. But he talks about how there's this positive or negative bias in relationships, right? And when you are meeting each other's love languages and you're kind of depositing into the emotional bank account, there's more of a positive bias. So there's more space to deal with the things that we don't like or get through challenges and stuff. But when you're busy with business and kids and household and all that, and you're not putting into a deposit into your partner's account, a small thing could happen and it's blown out of complete proportion because you're in such a deficit energetically and emotionally for one another.
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely. That's a great point, MJ.
Where the toilet paper being, on the either over or under, whichever you don't like, it just then throws you over the deep end, right?
Yeah, you start fighting over stuff you don't even know what you're fighting about.
Yeah.
And MJ, you talked about, how do you, as being busy, what do you do to come off that? And I guess all that we can really say after 30 years of marriage and 28 plus years of business and have raised the kids. Our kids are up out of the house now. And looking back out of all that, it all doesn't matter. If we could kind of speak to the younger couples,
young folks
that are working hard to create their empires, which is always cool, and it's going to be fun. And there's all this, work that's coming at you and you got to get this done and get this done. It don't all got to get done. It's almost just kind of, so you got to be intentional again of just taking the days off. We get to the point where we'll just take a Wednesday off. Things are blowing up or whatever. Let's go boating, or whatever. We learn to do that kind of a thing. We would back, even when our kids were, when the kids were younger, we would just take off and go to a movie, just us. That it's doing those kinds of things because the business, that's the thing, the business and all the sports teams that the kids are on and all this stuff, it will just consume you. It will just suck you dry. And you just got to just say, no, we're going to go over here and play.
Yeah.
I love that.
Because it'll all be there tomorrow.
Yeah. And in fact, I had this conversation with my husband this morning. He was saying, I feel like we're not getting work done. We're not getting work done. And this morning I had to sit him down and say, baby, that's intentional. Because you asked me before our conversation here, how things going. And I said, I'm going deep, not wide this year. That's the focus. And it's not just deep on the business, but it's deep on family. It's deep on this relationship with my husband. I told him I've been such a workhorse that I don't feel like we're going deep together. And so there is going to be more time to relax, to play, to have fun. And it's just as important as getting the other stuff done too.
Absolutely. And Richard mentioned that we are empty nesters now. Our last child is a senior at college. So we've been empty nesters now for a few years. Best thing ever.
Really?
Yes. It's the best thing ever. We love our children. We'll kill for our children, all the things, but it's the best thing ever. And one of the reasons it is because we worked at it when our kids were little, right? It didn't get to the point where our last daughter, we drop off at school and then we look at each other and go, all right, now, who are you again? And what did I like about you? And all the things, right? We'd cultivated all this time. So, MJ, you've got young kids. Now is the time to prepare for empty nesting because it's around the corner. I mean, our daughter was, 3, it seems like yesterday. Right? Yeah. Now is the time to prepare for the empty nesting because the kids will leave. They're supposed to. The kids will leave. And then it's just you and your husband. It's you two together. And you don't want to look at each other and try to remember or try to capture some spark at that point. I saw some book the other day that someone wrote about empty nesting, and the cover was now that the kids are gone, now is the time to work on your relationship or something to that effect. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's the worst advice ever. The time to work on the relationship is when your kids are little. Yes, you're busy. Couplepreneurs, we get it. We know that you're busy, that there's so much on your plate. But back to the word intentionality. You must be intentional because if not, your 3-year-old that you've got right now will be 18. You're dropping her off at college. And you look back and go, wow, what did we eat? What did we do with each other at all? And it happens all the time. People where their last child, leaves the nest, whether it's college or whatever it might be, end up getting divorced because they don't even know each other anymore.
Yeah. It's true. And that happens a lot.
Sadly, it does.
Yeah.
So working on it right now. Now's the time. Date night. That's why date night's so important. Even when, if you've got a brand new baby, yes, you're not going to leave your 1 week old.
Right.
But by the time the child's 3 months old, hopefully you've built some sort of network around you. You've got family or something that can at least come in for a couple hours so that you guys can go, especially mom needs it, right? And mom needs, especially at that age, after just having a baby, mom needs the husband to speak her love language more than ever. But then as the kids get older, find some sort of babysitting co-op, get a group of 3 or 4 other families and then swap babysitting once a week. That's what we did. Kids had a blast. You got date night, covered for three Fridays out of the month. But it's taking that time to be intentional about date night. And
it's that simple.
It really is. I know sometimes people are wondering, what's the magic pill? Yeah. Gosh, there's not a magic pill. It's just being intentional about it. Just like you are with your business, just like you are with your children. You need to be intentional.
And I don't let the guys off the hook. It's the guy's fault. I'm going to blame the guys. We need to continue to pursue our girlfriend. As guys, we get we go after, we get the beautiful girl, and it's like, okay, I got that. And now we're into, our business and playing golf with the guys. And there's nothing wrong with those things. Don't hear me. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's too much of that. We need to pursue the most important relationship in our lives. That is the foundation of everything else.
And so outside of date night, do you guys have specific, once or twice a year, we go on vacation together, or, you guys have rituals, I guess, so to speak, on an annual basis?
We would go, our goal was always to get away once a quarter, at least for 3 or 4 days. If we weren't able to get away for that long, then we would at least go downtown. We're originally from Indiana. We live in Florida now, but we'd go downtown Indianapolis, which is a great place to visit. Stay at a really nice hotel, get room service, all of that. So we were committed to making sure every quarter we do something like that. And then every year, certainly going somewhere. From a business standpoint, the other thing that we instituted, which helped tremendously, was a weekly planning meeting. Because yes, you talk business all the time, right? You lay in bed, you turn off the light, and you ask the business question. Oh, I forgot to ask you this, honey, or whatever, right? Those aren't meetings.
Or worse yet, passing each other. Lobbing, bombs at one another.
Or calling each other from the car because one's taking one kid somewhere and the other's taking another kid somewhere, right? Those are not meetings.
Those aren't meetings. Right?
A planning meeting is a time to sit and really plan your business. It's also a time for if the visionary has some ideas or something that he wants to walk through or kind of spitball or whatever. That's the time that person can do that, right? As opposed to, which happened at the beginning of our marriage, I would have on the computer, baby's on the pumpkin seat right next to me. I'm on the phone or whatever. Richard would come over, baby, I've got this great idea. Baby, I got this great. And he'd try to tell me his great new idea. And I'm like, are you kidding me? My hair's on fire here, right? So that caused a few arguments. Or the opposite would be first thing in the morning, because I'm very pragmatic. I have my to-do list. We'd wake up in the morning. He'd say, good morning, honey. I'm like, good morning. Okay, so today we need to blah, blah, blah. And then you got to make sure that you blah, blah, blah. And he called it me machine gunning him. He's like, stop. So we instituted a planning meeting once a week so that we could both bring those things. So when I have something that I need to tell him or something that needs to be done, I save those for the planning meeting. If he has an idea or something that he wants to run by me that's kind of a big picture, he saves that for the planning meeting. And then we both go to the planning meeting knowing what to expect. That's the time that I can intently listen to him with his planning or with his big picture idea. And that's the time that he can be ready for me to machine gun him.
And so do you guys typically have overall arching goals and then what Richard, wants to prioritize this year and what Laura wants to prioritize this year, kind of work those couple things together?
Exactly. So we'll come, we are individuals, right? And so there's that thing, but the power is in being united in your vision and in your efforts. And so it is coming together having that time so you can bring those things together. What happens so often is that we just think we're just kind of talking at one another, and we're not united, in our vision and our efforts. So
yes, being united in your vision is big. Knowing your why. Why do you have this business in the first place? What do you want for your family? What do you want for your marriage? You have to know that. If not, you're just going through the paces and you're just going through the motions every day, and you collapse at the end of the day. And then a week goes by, a month goes by, a year, 5 years go by, right? Yeah. So being intentional about what your why is, and then both having the shared vision together.
It's so beautiful. Oh my gosh. I could speak to you guys on this forever. So we have to have you come back.
Oh, I love that.
We love that
question
opportunity.
for you today is, what do you wish you would have known at the beginning of this journey together?
Wow. You know what? Okay, I think I have it.
Okay.
You've mentioned something, and I can't remember exactly what you said, but as we got back together and we purposed that we were going to stay together, like we mentioned, we didn't want to, but we had to envision who we wanted to be, right, and keep our eye on that, because at the time, we hated each other, but we had to really think about what do we want our lives to be, and then start acting like those people. Acting like people that are in love. So when we would go on a date, we'd hold hands. I didn't feel like holding his hand. I didn't want to, because we had so many arguments and we said so many hurtful things, right? But when we were dating and in love, in the beginning of our marriage, we went to the movies all the time. We held hands everywhere. We couldn't keep our hands off of each other, right? So I wanted to get back to that person, but then I also knew I wanted us to be those people again. So I don't know if that.
And so it's possible.
Oh.
Absolutely. We're telling you,
so
MJ,
hear it from the horse's mouth.
We're telling you, MJ, if our marriage can be saved, by the grace of God, any marriage can be saved without a doubt.
Right.
Amazing.
And the key is, we say that, we don't fall out of love, which we all say, we fall out of love. That's the excuse. We don't fall out of love because of our emotions. We fail out of love because of our actions. And so it's so important, and what our actions are. And so as the guys, I really feel I take responsibility as a husband. I am responsible for this relationship. So it was letting go of my my little boy ways and manning up. I mean, I know it's not a popular thing to say, very PC to say, now, but there is a thing of manning up, and manning up in this relationship is taking responsibility for this relationship, and being intentional about continuing to pursue my girlfriend. All right. And it's that simple. All right. She comes first.
It goes both ways, right? So
yes.
Right. Laura's also taking responsibility and pursuing you as her boyfriend.
Of course.
Right. Yeah. I love, oh my gosh, it's amazing. So one last exciting thing that I want to talk about, because I know, like I said, I could do this all day. You have something really exciting coming up in the next week or so, here coming up very soon. Tell us about it. I'm not
sure. On January 27th, 2023, it's called Couplepreneur Con, and it is a conference, an event, the premier growth event for couplepreneurs. And it's,
we may say so ourselves.
We may say so.
It's the only one of its kind.
And it's being held in Raleigh, North Carolina. So we've got tickets if you want to attend in Raleigh, but it's also virtual as well. So anybody all over the world, free virtual tickets. You can grab free virtual tickets. And we've got speakers like Ed Milet, who's our keynote speaker. He's going to be virtual. He'll be speaking virtually. All the other speakers can be Candy Valentino, Pete Wilson, Catherine Gordon, Justin R. I'm never going to be able to pronounce his last name.
Burger.
Oh, so he's even told us, it's
like Rosling's chauffeur or something like that.
Yes. Do you know him?
I mean, I've heard of him. I've heard of those people. They're just all powerhouses. It's amazing. I'm so excited for this lineup. It's amazing.
Yes. And they're going to be talking on different pillars. We're going to be talking about how to recapture the magic. We've got people that are going to be talking about wealth, building wealth as a couplepreneur, communication, of health, right? And not just working out, but really learning about your body and how to hack your health and your fitness.
Yeah.
And then also someone's going to be talking about sex and intimacy. So I've got all the bases covered.
It's amazing. And I will say from firsthand experience, when you are taking care of your relationship, there's like this weight lifted off of your chest. Like you said, you're unstoppable together. And it's almost like the beautiful thing about business is the personal development that comes out of it, and also the passion and the purpose and the contribution. But when you do that with one another, it's like another, just a whole nother level of personal growth. And the magic that comes out of it is indescribable. Like you said, a lot of us are seeking that intimacy. I don't think a lot of people make it there, to be honest. But when you get even just a small glimpse of that, there's this re-energizing magic, for lack of a better term.
You're exactly right.
That is the magic.
Yeah.
And it just comes with the intentionality and a little bit of time of being in the trenches together.
Yes.
I love it. And I thank you guys so much for sharing your magic with us. It's such a beautiful power in this world. And I'm so excited to see where you go. I'm excited to see you at Couplepreneur Con. I hope everybody else comes and joins and continues to follow you all, because you're amazing people inside and out, both in business and in personal life. And so thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you guys so much.
Thank you so much, MJ.
Thank you, MJ.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
We'll catch you next time.